So once again, good morning. We are welcome back to MSBA 604, discussing um, IT policies today. And then next week, we'll look at data governance policies into detail and look at the different frameworks that we use to develop it. I wanted to go to that topic, but I realized if I don't give you the foundation of what IT policies are, we will not be able to have a better appreciation of what we'll be doing next week. So just bear with me. I promise to do data governance frameworks today, but I need to give you a basis for that. So that's what we'll try to do today. So we'll look at data security and privacy policy, what it entails, and we'll look at how they are developed, how IT policies in general are developed. We'll look at different types of governance mechanisms because a policy is a governance mechanism in an organization. So how what other governance mechanisms organizations have? We will discuss these things, and hopefully I'll try to make it quite interactive. We had a very phenomenal week with the other classes. I'm hoping that we'll do so today. So my sessions are outlined as the overview of IT policy, data security policy versus privacy policy, and how IT policies are developed. These are the things that I'll try to cover in this particular session. Um, I hope that we could be interactive just like we did last week, and I was very happy about that. So if you have any question, you can raise your hand, or you could actually type in the page, or type in the chat room, and Dr. Bano or myself will, if you see it, will read it out. Okay. I know Anita says I should not be in today, so oh, so Anita is okay. Anita is in the other class. Sorry. Elsa rather is in this class. Elsa, thank you for reaching out and your patience.
Okay, so you're
Okay. So, what is a policy? A policy usually are seen as high-level statements which ensure compliance or guidance in an institution. So, when we say IT policy, our objective is that we are trying to use develop a mechanism so that the IT resources or the information and information technology resources can serve the strategy of the organization or can be able to be compliant to the strategy of the organization. Now you have seen I'm using the word IS and IT. Now usually some we use these words interchangeably, but they are two different things. In some in some parts of the world, they tend to insist on the differences. So when you say you are talking about when you talk about IT and IS, what comes into mind is this equation. IS is equal to IT plus people plus process, writing my mouth, so forgive me, plus policy. So what it's trying to say that is this: the IT part is a component that looks into your hardware, your software, and the network infrastructure that you have. Those things have to be integrated with the people organization, the process organization, and organizational policies in order to generate an IS. So when we say the admission information system, what we mean is that admission platform that you went to, where you want to apply on the internet, www.admission.ug.edu, that part is the IT. But there are people behind it who who establish policies and process your documents for you. There is an IT manager, there's a graduate school, and then there are people in the business school who even have to discuss how much should students pay, where should they pay their school fees. All of these are the people who are behind it. Then there are processes that it follows. And there is a policy. For example, the policy will be that we should open admissions and give students maybe about 3 months for application. So the process then will say that okay, we start in January and then we end in March, or we start in January and end of January, end in early April, something like that. Then we put all of this together to establish the admission system. So in effect, IS has a component of the technology, the people, the process, and the policy. So when you talk about information security policy, we are talking about those ones that focus on the security of or the protection of the information and the information producing resources, the security of it or the protection of the information producing resources. Now, and this is done in consultation with top management, which is also part of the people. Now, in certain countries like in the UK, usually the balance of IS is emphasizes on the IT, people, process, and policy. But when you go to some parts of quite North America, sometimes when they say IT, they tend to talk about the whole thing. So just have these things in mind that IS is a combination of all of these components and they come together to create a system. A system has components in it. IT primarily has to be with the hardware, your software, and your communication infrastructure that support the people, the process, and the policy. So in our work today, when we talk about IT, let me raise my screen. Sorry. Does anybody want to ask anything? Sometimes there's even another one, structure, and you want to get into that structure. For example, the IS that the MD may use may be different from the IS that operational staff may use, or the IS that the middle level managers may use may be different from the ones that maybe the factory may use or procurement may use. So sometimes structure and function can also be part of it, which is also a factor of or a component of process and policy at the same time. But that just I don't want to get into those details. I just want to give you a basic definition in this particular scenario. Okay, good. So when we say IS or IT policies, what we are trying to talk about is that in that document, we are going to find how does the information and information technology resources support the firm's vision, support the firm's strategy, and the principles that exist in the firm. So when we talk about IT policies, our objective is to try to articulate the firm's vision and strategy and principles in the manner or in relation to the information and information technology resources, particularly their protection of it. Their protection of it. When you talk about security, then protection, but in terms of usage, acquisition, all of this fall into the IT policies. Now, so an IT policy will tell you who are the people who are supposed to work on the policy or the roles defined for it. What is the scope of information held by the organization, and how are we going to establish controls to facilitate the efficient production and responsible usage of that information? Efficient production and then responsible usage of that information. Good. Now, because policies are high-level statements, within organization, you can have units like the marketing unit, you can have the procurement unit, you can have the finance unit or function, and all of these units have to have some controls to be able to guide their behavior or mechanisms. So sometimes, even though we have high-level statements which covers the whole organization or something, even a country, with these units or sub-units, we can have other types of governance mechanisms. So one of them is called standards. A standard is non-mandatory, it's not as high level um, um, as a policy, but it's also mandatory. So a standard is a low-level mandatory control that enforce and support that information system policy you have established. Good. Now, it's why is it needed? Because we need to be able to have different units, and we need to be able to ensure that some of the things that we are doing, there's consistency. So we establish certain standards so that we can consistency in coordinating how we use information technology or information system resources across all these units. So a very good example is like a password standard. So you may set out rules for password complexity, which is applicable to all the interfaces that you use, in the organization, for mobile devices or mobile related systems or web platforms, or to typical internet platforms that you use to the organization may even have to communicate or provide services to your consumers, and to even other platforms that you may deliver your service to, maybe computers, through tablets, through TVs. So all of these things will end up using this a similar password complexity. So if you come to a company like Amazon, sorry, Samsung has a password standard that says that uh, uh, use 8 or more characters with a mix of letters, numbers, and symbols. If your password does not meet the criteria, you will not be able to sign in. So this is a standard they have established. Use 8 or more characters Good. So in that scenario, when you go into a Samsung platform, you need to have 8 characters minimum to be able to even create a password. Otherwise, you'll not proceed. And it cuts across and their different devices. And sometimes they have this one account system where a universal account system that you log in once and you have one username and password, and it applies to all. So that have kind of makes it very easy for you to interface with different applications that they may have. Now, a guideline is not mandatory. And guidelines are supposed to be non-mandatory but recommended best practices to support the standard or to become a governance mechanism when we don't have a policy in place or a standard in place. So sometimes we are trying to observe and kind of study the evolution of a particular technology or how human behavior concerning a particular system we have deployed. We are not yet ready to develop a policy that will be high level and mandatory, or even a standard that will be low level and mandatory. But we want to be able to provide certain guidelines so that the people who are using the platform know what is required of them in terms of the standards. So we will end up giving them some advice that for best practice, do this. It doesn't mean that if you don't do it, the whole system will shut down, you cannot use it. But for best practice. Now, why is that important? We use that one to support the standard or become a stop, a kind of a temporal measure whilst we take our time and develop the mandatory one. But the mandatory ones can have other consequences. If a person doesn't do it, then what are the punitive measures for it? What are the other means of address of redress? So in that scenario, we are not yet settled. So why don't we give them a type of a recommended set of best practices that they should follow? So guidelines are strongly recommended, and they are best practices that are supposed to be help fill in the gap when there's no specific standard. Now, an example, a standard may require password to be 8 characters or more, like we saw in Samsung. But a supporting guideline may state the best practice that as best practice, you should change this password every 30 days. It means that they may, if it is a guideline, they may not enforce it. That they may prompt you. They may require you, but you can ignore the prompt and go ahead and still use the same password. They may also advise that use 8 characters, but if you have more than 8 characters, it makes your password stronger. So all these are best practices that they may be communicating to you as a user of their platform. Mm. So a standard may require specific technical controls for accessing internet securely, but a separate guideline may tell you that when you're on the internet, these are the best practices. Don't do this, do this, don't do that, don't that, don't share your personal information online. Double check what type of maybe email addresses you are providing, whether it's office one or for official discussions and none of and then your private one for your private or your personal discussion or your social discussion. Something like these are all guidelines that we may provide in such a scenario. Now, the last one is procedures. Now, we can, in an organization or even in the use of information technology, we come across certain time, we come across certain devices that we want to use. In being able to use the device, they may give us steps. Step one, for example, you buy a new a printer and you want to install it, and they tell you that do not connect the printer to the computer at first. Put in the CD or download the application and start and click next. Select your destination of where the software should go, then at a point in time, we will prompt you to connect the computer. What are they doing? They are giving you operational steps so that you can get that system running or get that printer running. Now, it's a procedure compulsory. No, for some of that, for some of the steps, you can skip them. Other steps may be compulsory. If you don't do this, you can't skip it. For example, they can tell you that if you don't, you need to select the destination of the software if you are installing. If you don't choose a destination, how can the software be installed? So some of the procedures can have steps which are mandatory, others can be advisory, others can be non-mandatory, so you can ignore them. So and others can be about choice. You have to choose what you want to do. In case, for example, do you want to view this website as a desktop or you want to view this website as a mobile website? These are questions that they ask. So if you choose one of the steps, it will give you another set of instructions to follow. So the procedures are specific operational steps or manual method that employees must follow to implement the goal of the written policies and standards. For example, a policy could describe the need for backups, or that we should store our backups in an offsite storage platform or center, and then it may tell us the need for us to have to safeguard or the need for safeguarding the backup media. So we have to put certain type of protection on it. Good. So the policy could tell us, but it will not specify which software you should use. It is a standard that will come and specify that use easy backup or use easy uh, um let's say Seagate backup platform, or maybe even the backup platform in Mac, in iOS. Use those ones. Why? Because they may realize that as an institution, we have got the resources to support this software, or we intend to support you with this software, provide the resources to support the software. So use this particular one. For example, in University of Ghana, our e-learning policy encourages that we are using Teams as our lead software, and there is also support for Zoom. But I'll come to explain it later why we have these two. Now, a standard could define the software to be used to perform backups and how to configure the backup. But it's the procedure that will tell you that step one, do this, the time of the backup, and how you interact with the backup system. Those ones will be procedures. Now, sometimes procedures can be on a continuum. That means you have to be consistently connected. You cannot actually if you disconnect from if you don't follow the steps continuously, you will not be able to get the service you are looking for. Let me give you an example. Some of you like to access your WhatsApp on your computer. So to do that, what does WhatsApp tell you? WhatsApp tell you that you have to scan a QR code that will link your computer to the phone or to the WhatsApp app on the phone so that the two will be synchronized together. Now, as soon as you do that, the computer are talking to each other. Now, if the browser is totally shut down and you lose that session, sometimes it disconnects from that particular phone, and the next time you come back, the computer may prompt you, or the browser may prompt you that you need to reconnect to the phone. So if you wanted to have consistent communication, that means that there should be a means in which that you have not logged out on the web version, but you are still connected to the web version, and the two can speak together. As soon as you log out on the web version, you are disconnected from it. So if a person types something, you will not see it on the web version anymore. So that means that that procedure requires you to be always online or always connected by virtue of that connection system that WhatsApp provides. So sometimes a procedure can be mandatory. Some steps can be mandatory. Some steps can require a continuous set of activities, or it should be on a continuum. Like whatever relationship, whatever you connect to, it should be always connected to that. Or some of the steps too can be also not mandatory, can be advisory. So we have the procedure, the standard, and then the guidelines, and these things support our policies to be enacted in an organizational context. So let's take an example. Look at Samsung lock screen and your data. Now, Samsung, what lock methods can I use on my Samsung Galaxy device? When something matters to you, you protect it at all costs. That's why Samsung devices are built with defense-grade security from the chip up, starting from the chip, ensuring that your data and device are secure from the moment it leaves the box. To make unlocking your phone easier, there are multiple lock methods. Now you're going to procedure you can use, including fingerprint recognition, patterns, and pins. So these are the ones that just recommended. Including means that there are other ones, but these are the top three common ones that they usually show up. So these are the ones that most of us use. Now it will then tell you now there's facial recognition. So the range of available lock methods they will differ depending on the device. So some of the methods are not applicable to some of the devices. So that's another thing it's telling you. So that's why you have some limitations and some procedures. So choose your preferred lock method from those supporting the device. This is an action you're supposed to do. So when you choose it, then it will tell you that, okay, what is the next thing for you to do? The location of your lock screen settings will depend on the specific device. Because some of you want to make a choice, but where can you find it? Now, depending on what kind of Android you are running, it may be, or in the device you're also using, as it says, on the latest devices, you can find these settings under settings, lock screen, and screen lock type. What is it telling you? Step by step direction, which is part of procedure. So it's giving you direction. So procedure can give you a direction to locate certain things. Now, on older devices, you find it under settings, lock screen, and security, or settings, lock screen, and then screen lock. So it has covered almost all the different devices and how you can locate your lock screen or your screen lock functionality. Then it gives you a visual representation of those steps. So if you see that procedure just goes a little bit of a step ahead to actually guide your compliance. It guides you in that step, in the steps that you're supposed to follow. So that's why you see how procedures work. But funny that most of our buy devices, we don't even look at the procedures or the manual that comes with it. Somebody buys a new laptop and says, I can use it, go straight into it. I remember a new laptop that I bought for my wife, and I couldn't even locate the on button. I actually had to go back to some of these new, but they have very, very sleek designs that you can't even see where you click on. I've seen one that the on button is part of the keyboard. Not that the one that you see that there's a button on the keyboard. It's part of the keyboard. Actually, put in something like a return or it's a light in that you click on it and it will switch it on for you. Then you click on it and it will also go off. Interesting. And then other ones I've seen on the side as a small button. I've also seen one that is on the lid. The lid that you open, the on button can be there. It's a button that just press then to switch on the lid and to switch on the screen. That's what I mean by the lid, the screen, and to also switch on the keyboard side. So there are quite some interesting functionalities that are being deployed out there. And sometimes if you don't know them very well, you will not even know what to do to be able to put on your device. But it is easier if you're using the manual. So now the second section, let's look at the data security policy and the privacy policy. Now that we understand what policy looks like and what are the different types of governance mechanisms we can have. Now, please, can I ask that is there anybody who wants some clarification, any question, anything that comes in mind, any contribution? Maybe is there anything that is new that you have gotten to see from the three things I've talked about, including policy, the four things I've mentioned? Is there anything new? I want to get some feedback from the class. Is there anything new? To you. Oh, okay, I didn't know that this was what it was, and now I've been able to learn it. Yes. Case, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Prof. So for me, all this time we use the word interchangeably IS and IT, and I thought it's the same. But
Okay.
today I get to
Oh, you got off. Today you get to is he still talking? Hello?
as I thought this one same thing. So that's what I'm taking away.
Okay, guess what case what we lost you after you said today you got to do something. We lost you at that part.
Yeah, so I said previously I used to interchange IS and IT, and I thought they are the same thing. But
Okay.
today I got to learn that the IT is a subset of the IS, and the IS has other components, including the people, the process, and the policy. So
Yes,
it's
please.
something new I've learned today.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very good. That's very good. Yes, knee. Knee.
Yes, Doc. I just wanted to find out. So even though we use some of these things interchangeably, most times I hear or you hear of password policy. Um, but from the presentation, it's clear that password goes down to standards. So can we have a password policy and a password standard, or is actually a password standard?
Okay, that's a very good question. Let me pick another question, then I'll answer all of them together. Is there any other question? Is there any other question? The ladies, are you not going to ask a question? Okay. Anyway, me, what do you think? Or should I answer? This is a little bit above you. There's
Well,
no.
from the presentation, it looks like it's a standard. But there again, in documents, even when you are typing passwords on websites or in Microsoft, it always comes as a policy. And
Okay.
in organizational documents, it's you normally come across the word policy.
Okay. So it's all about what you are what you are trying to develop as an organization. If you want an IT policy, all these passwords and things can be standards within the IT policy. Do you understand it? if you want to develop an IT policy as an organization, all these can be part of the IT policy. Please, I don't know, do you understand that part?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. Now, the challenge that we have is that sometimes an institution want to have, maybe I've got branches across the world, like Tesla. Look at how Tesla has so many companies. So Tesla can say we have to have a password policy. And the password policy then will state that passwords will be managed by the IT Development Center. It shall consist of 8 characters and this kind of stuff. And you mentioned a few of them. But in communicating that, they have also put certain lines which are standards that they are put in there. But when they say it at a high level, that means that it's going to look after quite a number of different things. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Then within it, they can have standards and guidelines to be able to use the password. So you can have a password policy as a document, as it's lying there. And the document, they will tell you that, okay, password, what is a password? Then they will explain what a password is. How, what are the password, what type of password do you have in the organization? We have the web mobile app password. Okay, let me use Samsung. We have the password. We can have passwords used on computers, passwords used on the Samsung devices like car, if there's a car, even Samsung TV, Samsung refrigerator, Samsung air conditioner. So they can mention all of these things. Then they'll start telling you that all the passwords for these things should be 8 characters. But when it comes to, then they start when it comes to Samsung, let's say smart hubs, this is what you should look like. When it comes to Samsung, this is what we'll do. When you come to, or who will be the contact person for redress or issue for this one. So they will start putting everything together for you to have one document that helps you to understand passwords in that ecosystem. Because of how the organization is structured, they can have that high level documentation. So there's no ambiguity across the whole branches of Samsung across the world. But this your no confio entrepreneur company, only one desk, 2 employees. You can have IT policy, and then inside you can have your password standards that you may put across. Another thing I would try to also point out is that it's also more of what the company understands as policy. Some people just throw the jargons, just as you just said. So I have email policy. Then I have the same person who says that email policy. They have web policy. So you said the email policy is not part of the web policy. Then you also, that same person who has internet policy. You go into the email policy is just about, this is the email we'll use. We'll use Yahoo. And then in Yahoo, you are supposed to create an account. You are not supposed to share the policy with it. But in that document, they call it policy, but they are actually mentioning standards inside. So you see the combination of standard guidelines and things. So they may not be able to differentiate, but they'll put all together and say they are all, this is how we want to govern. So that's why I said that policy is a high level governance mechanism. But at what level is it being defined and is it being used? If it's at an institutional level, people may call it a policy to look at the whole, oversee the whole institution. If it's at a unit level and that is responding to something which at the institutional level, there's going to be a standard. Now, so that means that in University of Ghana, we can have the IT policy. Then they'll tell you that you, the unit level, establish your guidelines and standards that can work for you. But you have to draw from the IT policy of the organization. I hope you understand me. In other scenarios too, we don't know what you are doing here. We are just using the terminologies. So please, we accommodate all of these things. Sometimes we mention the words, but we don't understand at what level has the word being applied or said. Now, lastly, when we say something is high level, that means that it's a little bit abstract. It's not very specific like procedures. And it does not look at, it does not give you several steps like guidelines or several do this, don't do this, this is advice, this is not advice, like guidelines. And then it is not going to be prescriptive at the unit level like standards. So it's going to be kind of a general direction. All departments are supposed to do that. Then in that you can have the standards for marketing department, standards for finance department, standards for this particular department. So that's what it looks like. That's how it's communicated across. Then the last one has to do with the fact that it's the jurisdiction. So it says high level statement, that which may end up overseeing all the activities pertaining to this issue. High-level statement pertaining to this issue. So when we don't have any other document that can give us as guidance, this is the one that we have that we're going to use. So we may have an organization can have an internet policy that will never mention emails. So somebody may come again and then tell you that either we revise the internet policy or we have an email policy to support it. If your organization is more complex, you are going to see more policies either as integrated or fragmented. And sometimes they are fragmented or they are separated, decentralized because of also budget too. And that also I've seen that happen in organizations before. The reason why they may decentralize certain types of the policies because your unit, it doesn't apply to you. So it applies to only the units that have that kind of type of interaction. For example, email policy. What if the organization only give emails to those who are in marketing? So you see that the email policy may only just speak to those who are in marketing, maybe top management, and they may establish certain standards in there. They will not say that it covers everybody. So please appreciate that sometimes companies use it interchangeably, but sometimes to issue concerning budgets, jurisdiction, complexity of the organization can help them, let them have even different levels of policies. If I'm a multinational, I can have policy that pertain to Africa, policy that pertain to Asia, policy that pertain, because these are regional blocks that are very important to me, and I want to give them, and there are differences in what they do, even language. So I want to give them specific things that can apply to them. Good. But please, as we go on, I'm going to show you that of Samsung, and you start seeing that they may state some of the things as a universal, and some of the things they may state it to be specific to a particular country. And I'll show you the examples. Okay. Thank you, Val. It's a very good question. It's a very good question. Please, can I move ahead? I see Joseph. Joseph, what do you want to say? Joseph Miracle, what do you want to say?
Oh, Prof, sorry, I'm sure my hand is up by mistake.
Oh, your hand is not up. Your mic is unmuted, so I thought you were going to talk.
Oh, no.
Okay, then.
Sorry.
Okay. So the other time when we met, we talked about security and privacy. Who remembers what is the jurisdiction of privacy? Who remembers what I said? Privacy. What does privacy concern? Who remembers that? Who remembers that? I'm not saying the definition of privacy, but I talked about the fact that security focuses more on the organization, but privacy focuses on who? Hey, nobody remembers. Yes, Elsa.
So, sir, please, privacy focuses more on personal identifiable information.
Good. It's especially on the individual, personal identifiable information. So data security policy does the same thing. It outlines the measures and procedures an organization has to protect the confidentiality, that's the CIA, the confidential integrity and availability of data, including sensitive customer information, and also safeguarding that data from unauthorized access, breaches and data loss, unauthorized access, alterations, and then breaches and data loss. Now, when you have a security policy, the components that you can see in them is who has access to the data and what level of access do they have. How is the data protected in terms of its encryption? How we protect it when we are transferring, emailing the data or sharing the data across in terms of in transit, and how are we going to protect it when it's in storage at rest on your computer? Now, authentication and authorization. Who are the authenticated users, and what are they authorized to do with the data? You can be authenticated, but you may not be authorized to do some certain activities on the data. For example, the secretary in the admission office is authenticated to look into admission data, but she or he may be required to just compare your certificate to know that is your certificate that you say you got it from UG. Is it the valid certificate. So you look at the attributes on the certificate, the scanned one, that okay, the index number is there, there's this, there's that, the stamp is there, the seal is there, okay, it's authenticated. Then you then go and click certificate verified. He may even check a database to see whether you went to UG and say, okay, it's a verified, you're going to UG, so it's verified. But the HOD is the one who will pick the verified students and then give them admission, recommended for admission, after he has done interviews with them, after he has also discussed with colleagues. So even though both of us are authenticated, we can do different things on the platform. So authentication does not mean that you can do everything. Okay. So incident response. If anything happens, what are we going to do? What steps are we going to take in terms of data breach or security incident? Then again, it says, how are we going to safeguard our data, whether in transit or in rest? What are the backups so that we can have access to the data? What are the procedures for disaster recovery? There's rain. Our office gets flooded. How do we access the other data and ensure business continuity? So because we have got people we are serving across the world. So if you put all your data on some desktop in the office and there's flood, then your data is gone. Physical security. Last week I told you about somebody carrying our system unit away. So he carried all our data information away. Good. But it addresses physical controls and protection for the data storage facilities. I had a discussion on this CTFM this week where we were talking about the fact that anytime that somebody there is going to be a probe, maybe in Lands Commission or certain government houses, that is when conveniently there's fire and then that particular office and other offices get bent and the data goes away. So you're not able to track anything. So what is the physical protection of those or the content of the paper-based or the paper-based information or the print-based information that is in there? Okay. Data security policy also looks at who are we giving audience to, who is authorized to use this. In terms of who does it pertain, what's the scope of the data of this particular policy? Who does it cover? It covers employees, it covers contractors, it covers anybody who handles organizational data. But you need to categorize them. Some of them are guests, some of them are visiting, like University of Ghana, about visiting professors or visiting faculty. So you have to know which categories you put in for your different users of your data. Even the consumers who use your data, who use your platform, some of them are high-level clients. The frequency in which they buy your stuff is quite high, that you tend to call them prestige customers, or the value of their transactions, prestige customers. And others are not prestige. Okay. Then when you are deploying this particular policy, are you deploying in vacuum? Are there other legal requirements which can be higher than yours? Other national policies, other national regulations, other national or international level. For example, if I am dealing with healthcare data and I collect data from primary school, let's say schools across Accra, to be able to know how many children are using the appropriate, how many girls are using appropriate, let's say, sanitary pads, so that I can inform WHO in this free sanitary pad agenda. And then, but the company that is sponsoring it is maybe an American company. So far as American comes in, and I'm dealing with healthcare, and I'm sharing the data with them, I have to adhere to HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So far as I do something with EU, I have to look at the GDPR of EU, the General Data Protection, and there's the Data Act. So far as I'm dealing with Ghana and I'm collecting data, I have to also look at Data Protection Act. So far as I'm also dealing with Pharmacy Council in Ghana, and I'm trying to help people buy drugs online, I have to look at the e-pharmacy policy of Ghana. So there is quite a number of different things that you are supposed to consider. I was privileged to be part of those who developed the e-pharmacy policy in Ghana. In the committee that we worked in, I was asked to serve on it, and I developed the draft, and then the committee worked on it to be actually enacted or get it passed by Baumia at the time that he was vice president. Now, when we were doing that kind of stuff, they put a team together, and the team have different people. So I brought them to the business school, these key people in the pharmacy council and other they have got different units, and there's the association or the pharmacists and other sets of people, key people in the health sector. So, and then I showed them how different policies look like in terms of e-pharmacy policies. Then we had a structure. That one was developed as a framework, and then they came to add. You can't say this. We have to remove this. This is the kind of stuff that we do. But so if you are now running a pharmacy and then you want to sell online, then we have to do that. As part of those policies, we recommended that there should be a national platform to integrate the data that comes around. So now later on, then I was asked, can you develop the SRS, that's the software requirement specifications for the development of a national e-pharmacy platform. So I developed that one. Then we found a company to actually develop the software, and then we worked the company to deploy it for the pharmacy council. Last year, I made the council and its members come and present that software to us so we can look at the data issues in it. Maybe this year I'll try and see if I can get them. But what am I trying to say? All of this thing came because at the end of the day, we saw that there's a proliferation of different pharmacies and who are selling online. Everybody's selling this type of drug online, and there was no governance mechanism for that. So sometimes we develop these things so that it can guide behavior in an industry. So if I'm in an industry, even though I'm a pharmacist, I'm also supposed to, so first I'm going to sell online. I'm also supposed to make sure that I adhere to the Data Protection Act of Ghana. So I can't only just adhere to the Pharmacy Council's pharmaceutical policy, the e-pharmacy policy. I have to also look at that one. So there's different things that you are going to bring it together to be able to say that your organization policy is actually foolproof and is actually consistent with what is expected of you. The industry you belong to, who you are trading with, who you are doing business with, the country you find yourself, and then even sometimes the sector you find yourself globally. And if you want to do export and import or have trans-border transactions, there are some policies you're supposed to follow. If I go to Germany, I have to do things with EU. If I go to the US, right now there's even different. You have to do things with Trump policies. You have to follow Trump policies. So there are quite interesting things that policies that come up because of the nature of your business. The privacy policy is a public-facing document, a kind of external document that looks at the external engagement of you as a company and your potential customers, and even sometimes the personal information of your own employees. So it's about how we collect the data, use the data, and share and protect the information. Can the person as an individual have the right to restrict access to the data, give consent? Can I give consent to who can use my data, who has access to my data, who can see my data? When can even is there a means of saying that I want my data deleted? These are things that you are supposed to make sure that you provide the appropriate steps for consumers and users to know what they can do with their data and how they can control you, Samsung, in using their data. This is how powerful privacy policies are. People don't know it, but privacy policies are very, very powerful. And if an organization, you are data collecting the organization, you don't have a privacy policy, somebody can carry you to the Data Protection Commission. Can carry you there. You are collecting my data, you don't have any privacy policy to guard my data. Hey, serious. Actually, I need to know. You may not call it privacy policy, but even if you have an IT policy, what about my data in it? What are you doing to safeguard my data? How can I have access to my data? Because it's my data, it's my information. So the key components in the privacy policy will be data collection. How do we collect the data? What type of data are you collecting about me? Is it personal data? Through what means? Are you using the automated means like cookies or through third parties or forms? Like I fill a form and then I choose to use to provide those kind of information that you capture, like my username, my name, my location, where I live, my address, all those kind of stuff. Data use. When you collect that information, how are you going to use it? Is it for marketing? Is it for analytics? Is it for self-improvement? Are you going to be sharing with some third parties? And then what circumstances are you sharing with them? Will you share to legal institutions? Then there is protection. I find a security measure to protect my data. When I give it to you, how are you going to protect it? Do you know that Apple itself had a situation in which the FBI wanted them to help them hack into somebody's iPhone. They had the iPhone from a suspected terrorist, and they wanted to have access to it. And iPhone said that the type of encryption are placed upon the phone, we don't know the password. So you can guess different passwords and use them, but after some time, the thing to log you out. So they sat with the thing for months. They couldn't actually unlock it because Apple itself says that if they unlock it for you, if they know how to unlock it, they unlock it for you. What does it tell them? What is their trust and assurance to consumers that with the right inducement, somebody can have access to their data? No. Number two, we ourselves, the way we have done the encryption, we can't even know because we can't predict it. So they said they couldn't help the FBI, whether the person had done fingerprint and what pattern had used. But if you're using a very, very simple pattern, some of you try to write A, or you try to write 7, or you try to write L. Those ones are they'll catch you, they'll open it right now. But you write, some people have got different levels. So you use the finger, the pattern. After that, you use your eye, and after that, you use the password. They are using a triple layer protection. Then later they even add a OTP that it will send me a text then before I allow you to be able to do something on the machine. Anyway, so this one comes in. Then user rights. Inform users about their rights. Right to access, correct or delete their data. I mentioned that. Then the most important one, which some people have been evading, contact information. Don't give me contact information global. Give me to the locality I am in. I'm on Singapore Samsung's website. Who should I contact if I want a problem? Data protection officer, Singapore, Samsung Singapore. This is the index, the email address, and this is the phone number. I don't want, whilst I'm there, I'm wanting Singapore, Samsung US details. No, I want the Singapore one. I'm a Singaporean. And you are selling my products in Singapore. So I want that one. This is how it's supposed to be. So who is if you don't have that one, then give a generic global one. But at least you have to give them one which is local that they can be able to contact, one which is designated. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person is in Ghana, but it's designated to answer questions coming from Singapore, Ghana, South Africa. But anyway, some companies also look at what value that Ghana brings in terms of business. That we as BYD, we should have an email address for those who are using our cars in BYD. No, if you know the volume of cars coming to Ghana is less than 12 in a year, why should we do that? So sometimes companies also put in a global pool if their business interest there is not that high or or demanding, and then even if the policies in your country is also not insisting and requesting them to do so. Oh, please, I'm teaching. I'm really enjoying my teaching. I'm teaching myself. So I don't know who is enjoying it. Is anybody enjoying the teaching?
Yeah, enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so privacy policies are intended for customers, website visitors, and anyone whose data is being collected by the organization, including the employee. Good. The privacy policy must be applicable, as we have said in that, as the security policy to GDPR Europe and the national protection policies. Last week, I mentioned that note that you can have security policy intact, but your privacy, you are breaching it. Because you're allowing people in organization to use the personal information of consumers for different things that you're not supposed to use it for. So we have the system is secure, but what about the use of the data? The system cannot be hacked, but the use of the data can be in breach of a person's privacy. This thing happens in Ghana, especially in the early times of the GSM and then the Scancom. Those times that these companies started, we started operating in Ghana. I remember this particular person. I even remember the person's name. He was suspecting the wife. So he called one of his schoolmates who was working at a telco. I can't mention the telco. That he wants to see his wife's call log so that he can know who he's calling. He can't take the phone in the house and then, because the wife is very smart, he knows where to put the phone or whatever it is. So he called a friend, and me, I was in the UK. He called the friend, and then they got the call list. And the marriage was on the time I got to know the marriage was breaking because the man was using the call list to be able to as evidence. And he shared it. I even shared it. Yeah, we were in UK, we even saw the call list. The call log, sorry. So you see, this one, the data is secure, but the breach of privacy is on part of the employee who belongs to that particular telco. The employee will go to that particular telco. Good. So it happens, and these things can happen at any time. That security is secure, but privacy is breached. Okay. So data security policy focuses on internal procedures and measures to protect data from security threats, just as I mentioned. But the privacy policy is aimed at informing users about their personal data and how it is handled. What data do we have about you? But both of them work together as an organization to ensure trust and compliance to the legal and regulatory requirements within the context in which the organization is operating in. So let's look at some of the directives that exist here. We have the Bank of Ghana Directive for Ghana Cyber Information Security Directive. Then now there's I think the cyber security policy, and there's an AI policy now. But let's look at these ones for which are related to what we are teaching today. Then there's some privacy policy. Then Amazon too has one to protect the Amazon Web Services, those who use their data platforms. Now let's look at some key things in the Ghana, let's start from Bank of Ghana. So let me share the Bank of Ghana. This is the Bank of Ghana one, Cyber Information and Security Directive in 2018. So maybe even outdated, there's something captures on the new things. Okay, so they have the objective, the applicability, the obligations of regulated entities, and then the board itself will come. And then they go to cyber security management. You see the policy. So the policy starts. So the policy says out policy standard and procedures for. You see what I mentioned. Policy. They have avoided guidelines because they Bank of Ghana, they don't want to give you any room for operation. They want straight policy standard and procedures for managing cyber and information security risks shall be presented to and approved by who? Approved by who? Approved by who?
The board.
Good.
The board.
This document shall what? This shall cover at least from the cyber threat environment and potential impact on the institution as the institutional approach to managing cyber and information security risks. So they are defining their types of policies. So the directive is meant that how we are going to manage these issues concerning information policy or security policy for our platforms or banking platforms in Ghana. The institution approach to managing cyber and cyber security risks, information security risks, and in determining and monitoring the level of exposure to cyber information security, principles behind the implementing the cyber. So this is kind of a governance mechanism for all the banking institutions. The policy shall comply with relevant Ghanaian laws as well as what international cyber information security standards, such as the ISO 27000. We'll check it from Mr. Please remember that we have to check this one when we are looking into it. So if you can copy it somewhere, and then Elsa, remember that we have to check it. The policy shall be reviewed at least once every 2 years. That's one thing our policy. It takes time for them to review. It takes time to develop, and it takes time for them to change it. So whilst we are not changing, we can release standards and guidelines to as a stop measure, as a filling gap mechanism to be able to control behavior. The senior management is responsible for writing the framework. Who will be responsible for doing that? So they are actually giving you a direction on how it will be developed. But I want to jump and go into some of the provisions itself. Some of the provisions itself. So let's go on. Okay, cloud services, corporate governance, risk management, cloud computing service contract, what you should have in it, insurance application development. So let's look at there's training, awareness, competence, center position, new employee, new positions, cyber education, cyber exercises. Quite interesting there. Good. Electronic banking services. That's what we are general. An institution shall define different electronic banking service levels and apply different levels of security remedies for reference to this level. So what do you mean by you, the banking sector, you EcoBank, when you're defining your e-banking policy, you have to define all the e-banking service levels and apply the different services. So this directive is supposed to govern the development of other policies at the institutional level. This is what I was telling you, that you can have a policy that is very, very, very broad and at the national level, and then the different institutions are supposed to do institutional level policies to be able to guide behavior within the institutions. I remember somebody asked a question. So Bank of Ghana as a regulator is giving you the directive for what you should do. When a customer accesses account remotely, details about the transactions from previous access or log shall be provided to the extent possible. So these are what provisions you should do. An institution shall have in place a procedure for obtaining customer approval for accounts transaction with reference to such aspects as type and nature and amount. So you know that sometimes they tell you that if the amount is above this, you have to call you. Sometimes some banks even allow you to even specify anything above, any check above 5,000, call me. And there is even some banks even have their own standards of what they do. Some banks even call on 200 cities. They will call. I've heard about that. They call on every check. And then anybody in the bank to confirm this. They call on every check, not every third party check. They call. Even if it's 200 cities or 100 cities, they call. Is that if I'm right? Is there no banker here to confirm that? Hey, all of you are no bankers. You are big people. You don't like the bank. People like Ted like this is not a banker. So can answer my question. Okay. Anyway, so let's continue. A customer shall be given the liability to save or print in real time the details of the order actually given. Okay, hey, this is it true? Do the bank allow you to be able to print your transaction? Third-party transactions shall be carried out subject to the following condition. Transaction in the account included in the beneficiary list shall be carried out in line with the ceiling determined by the institution or the customer. This one is true. I see it in Stanchart. The ceiling is then transactions crediting other accounts shall be limited to ceiling determined by the institutions. Okay, that one is true. They can point out you have done your limit is 250,000 a day, but you can set lower limits. In fact, that's the highest limit you can have. Usually, they give you up to 10,000 or 50,000, depending on the type of account you have. Prior to entering the details of any money transfer order, the customer shall be required to enter authentication code. That means every transfer should go with the OTP. Okay, that's over the. Okay. So please, I beg you, try and check whether this is happening. Sent over a separate communication channel, such as SMS and sometimes email. They do those two. When a transfer order is issued, the customer shall be required to indicate the receiver's details and purpose to the payment. That one is done. So all of these things are supposed to guide that. Let's go to another part. Subscribing to e-banking services. An institution shall sign an electronic banking service hereafter EBS agreement with the customer. Okay, I think this is the one that you click on when you are signing, you are subscribing. You say, you agree to this? You don't even really say yes. An institution may cover a customer. The customer may offer the customer a package of channels and services as long as the customer is allowed to deselect channels. It's true. This one I see it in some of the do you want to be communicated via email, via telephone banking, via this, the action. Paragraph 2 shall not apply to cases where the cluster of channels is required to provide a certain service. A customer is entitled to revoke the consent to receive a service or use a channel or cluster of channels at a time. Please, this is what can guide you in holding your bank responsible. Because so we are supposed to, this is about us. Identification, authentication. An institution shall determine individual identification and authentication factors for online and other remote transactions based on the risk assessment and policies approved by the board. An institution shall establish processes for creating, delivering, using, and replacing and disposing all identification and all authentication factors. So this is the provisions that they are giving us. There's quite a number of them. We can't do all of that. But like traffic between the customer and the website shall be encrypted using highest level of standard mechanisms available. So if you get hacked, you can hold them. You're supposed to encrypt your site. Have you encrypted it? An institution shall utilize means under its control to protect the computer and the device the customer use. This is a very good one. I didn't even know about it. So you have to also use means to protect the computer that somebody. I've heard of companies are saying that it's not our system, it is your system. Your machine was compromised. By saying that you have to utilize means to protect the computer and the devices the customer uses for banking communication against unauthorized use and exposure of information about the customer's account. This is very, very tricky. So you are not there. The typical steps include, for example, preventing passwords from being saved in your browser. Good. And web pages to be cached in the memory. But this one, they are not doing the right thing. My password is saved in my browser. This one, they are not doing well at all. This part. But somebody can hold the bank responsible in case you say that it is me, the consumer, who did it. It's my negligence. But the bank is saying that it is your duty to take steps to protect the computer and the device the customer. This is very tricky, very, very tricky. Very, very tricky. Some of us use our website, go to very, very strange website. Then after that, we come to a banking platform to come and pay something. If somebody follows you from that site you went to and come to your banking and he has put a kind of a key logger and is studying your keys that you are typing, then it's your fault. You went to the underground website or the third part, the dark web, and now you are saying it is me. But interestingly, an institution shall protect its customer-facing website from all known and accepted technological means to protect banking website, including and not limited to firewall, anti-malware products, DOS attack, DDoS attack, and then denial of service attack, and then all kinds of other types of attacks, and then web application security. Okay, so let's hold on for this one. At least you have been able to appreciate that there's a lot of directives that have been given by Bank of Ghana. But please, did you know about some of these things already? I didn't know some of them. I thought the bank was just doing well, but I realized that they are mandated to do that. Did you know about this already, ladies and gentlemen?
No, I didn't know.
Okay.
You didn't know? Oh, okay. Okay. I myself, I didn't know that I didn't know the extent to which Bank of Ghana is doing well to protect us. I didn't know about that. I didn't know. Very good. Okay. Somebody is asking that what category does IT service management fall under? Are you saying in relation to the bank? If it's in relation to the bank, then I'll be sharing the document with you. It has certain things concerning that so that you can read and identify. But I'm not going to the full document, but you may want to look into that. He's looking at IT service management. Okay. And those of you don't yes.
Sorry, I was asking in relation when we're talking about the policies and the procedures and standards.
But at least when you
I
start
wanted
reading
to
the
know what-
document, you realize that there were
Okay.
certain things that were being covered. When we start reading
Okay, so I wanted to know if IT service management also falls under that category, like the policies that they're supposed to follow.
yeah. Because you
Okay.
have a policy to actually, if it's somebody, a third party is managing it for you, what is guiding the arrangement and transaction you have? What are they allowed to do and what they are not allowed to do? So those of you who don't know what IT policy, IT service management is, that know what it is. It's just a kind of a structured approach in which we design, deliver, and manage and improve IT services that the organization offers to its users. So it's more about like you are ensuring that those the IT self-service functions as a service, and you align it to the business objectives, and then you try to provide value to consumers. But sometimes a company may do it not on their own. They may be doing with other third parties to get it done perfectly for them. For example, let me give an example. I was in Woodin, and when I went to Woodin, I went to buy something, and I wanted to pay by card. This is about 6 years ago. And when we paid by the card, the transaction didn't go through, but I was debited. But they said they didn't see. So we didn't get a service attendant to meet. I needed a clock for an anniversary. He said I should pay. So I ended up paying cash again to them. Then later when I went to the bank said the money was given to them at the end of the day. Now the money has reached them. They have been see the money twice. So I was trying to retrieve the money back. What I went through. I leave the rest. What I went through before I got my money back. It wasn't easy. So sometimes and Woody was saying that it's not their fault. So a third party processes manages the platform for receiving payments or in the shop. Their POS is managed by another company, I think a bank or something like that. So I should deal with that bank. So Woody step aside, and I'm now dealing with the bank to get my money back. You have to do reconciliation, you have to do this, you have to do that, we have to do that. So sometimes the challenge that we have is they are providing a service to you, but some of the service is also managed by third parties. And if you don't have a very good policy to guide who does what and what is expected, when there's a problem, some customers get a very a short change, or they get a very bad service, and it doesn't help in even you thinking as being a return customer of or a return customer or a return buyer for their products. Anyway, so please let's go to the other one, the other companies we saw on my platform. That was Samsung. So let's check Samsung, yeah, and then come back to that. Yeah. Please, thank you for your questions. If anybody has anything to add to whatever you are doing. Okay, Godwin, I see your hand is up. Okay.
Yes, sir. So I was a bit confused about one of the directives that you read from the Bank of Ghana, where they said that they have to help keep safeguard the customers. How do we call it?
Yeah, the machine. I remember.
The machine. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they are going to play an advisory role or physically help safeguarding.
Okay. If maybe I read it, maybe you didn't get it. What they said is that, for example, let me go back to. They said that, for example, where is it? Oh, is it, for example, I read this thing. Let me. Okay, good. Prevent the password from being saved in the browser. So when you are the bank can do in such a way that the password is not stored on the and that functionality doesn't work. So it means that if you are mandated to actually type the password whenever you come in, you can't use the password saved in the browser to just show. Some websites do that. It will remember your previous your login details and just put it inside. Then just click on to the next one. Number two, web pages to cache the memory so that and it all comes from what kind of data is being captured by the cookies that govern the page. To what extent is stored, what information is stored on the browser. He says they don't store anything on the person's browser. But companies like to do that so that they can remember the previous information you provided. So it's very easy, a seamless login. So sometimes you open a page and you see that your username will come, your password will just come, you click next and go. But what others have been doing is that they want you to try to be sure that you are present and you are the one interacting with. So what they do is that they give you a token, which is authentication token, which will go onto your phone. And sometimes you have to go to, for example, in a company like StanChart, you have to go and approve on your phone before the page will still open on your desktop. The page will open on your desktop. So that means that at least you have to be present, which is part of what they are trying to do, trying to control and protect the devices. So if you have somebody, if I leave my laptop, my computer there, and let's say my son comes in and just come to click on log into my standard account, it will send me a notification that I'm asking that this is, should I approve? If I say decline, it will decline it. So, but in the past, because the thing is stored in the browser, the thing would have just logged in straight and gone there. The guy can then transfer money to whoever you want to transfer it to. So what he's trying to do, try to put in, or even if he's not able to transfer, he can read my account. I've been telling my son that, oh, Charlie, I can't buy this thing for you. But daddy, you have this money. So these things happen a lot. You don't want people to have unauthorized access to people's data. Especially the ones that, you can go to a library, leave your computer on, you get up and say, I'm drinking water and come. Then the guy who's sitting by you can just open a page and just click on the next, and then he has let somebody detain you at the where you are fetching the water, that particular where you are fetching water or getting coffee. They delay you a little bit, then somebody has opportunity to log into your platform and see what is there. Maybe he's even your friend. You have already approved his name in your system, so you can just click on then send to Kwame. Eunice, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So with regards to the saving passwords and details on the PCs, we had an issue about with fraud some time back, and the son of one of our customers sent an email from his father's laptop requesting for a token reset. So for his application, they have the two-factor authentication. So they have tokens, physical tokens, or tokens on their mobile phones. So probably the son had access to his father's phone, and he sent an email from his father's email. He sent an email to the bank from his father's email, which was already saved on his laptop, requesting for a reset. The son got the details for the token resets, and he made a transaction from his father's account, and they debited some amount, a huge sum of money from his father's accounts. His father came to report fraud, that he wasn't the one who did the transaction and that he was suing the bank for this and that. After investigation, they had to suspend the staff who requested for the research, who did the research for the father. But I think after some further investigations, they found out it wasn't really the fault of the bank, but it was the father's son who did that. So
No, you are right. I agree with you. This is a very serious case, because that means that the boy had access to the reset device, whichever one that he will use to confirm. That's why
yes,
sometimes double authentication or confirmation is needed, because if the that means that either the phone or something was right, it was also with the gentleman. And the gentleman knew what he was doing. In fact, this guy is a criminal. The boy had actually planned to do it. Not that he had actually studied the father very well. It's not just by chance. It is calculated crime. It's a family issue. Hey, interesting. But what you are saying is true. It can happen. It can happen like that. Now, and this one is using the bank's fault, because the person knows all the education things that we are supposed to do, and then the person actually used that one against the bank. Okay, let's look at some privacy policies and some of the things that they talk about. So remember, we mentioned that for a privacy policy, you have to define what you are going to collect and use. So look at this collection. We collect minimal information to provide services. This is just an overview. Then data sharing. We may share your personal information with our partners. Data stored data and deletion. Personal data is safely stored and deleted when no longer in use. What data do we collect, and how do we use the data? Essential data. We collect data such as name, personal and contact information. Service data. We also collect data about when and how we use some products and services. Member registration. So this is another type of data they also collect. Then they go to providing optimal contents. Your personal data helps you to have an optimal experience. That's why all this data is needed. If you agree to receiving marketing information, you can also receive news about Samsung products and services and apps. Then you go, how is your data stored? So this, remember I mentioned what should be in the privacy policy. So that give you an overview. Provision of personal data to third parties. Samsung does not provide personal data to external parties, but may provide it to laws and regulations, for reasons such as laws and regulations, investigation purposes, fee settlement, and then statistics. Business partners, in process of providing products and services to users, we share users' personal data with business partners. How do we delete your data? In order to protect your personal data, they are stored safely in Samsung data center. Okay, this one I'll come back to it. Or in a pattern data center. That means strict security requirements. Delete your personal data. A personal data is deleted right away when it's no longer in use. Okay. Then destruction method. What method will you use to destroy the data? Okay, now if you look at this, this is just an overview. And this is in Samsung global website. However, if you go into let's say Samsung, I know somebody's hand is up. I'm coming. Samsung Singapore. They try to give you very detailed one on this their website. Samsung Electronics, referred to as Samsung Electronics or Samsung, we in this policy, headquartered in South Korea, knows how important privacy is to our customers. We want to make sure you understand how we collect and use your personal information across all Samsung devices. You see what I mentioned? Across all the devices. And then services from mobile phones, tablets to TVs, home appliances, online services, and more. Overview of personal information. We collect personal information that you provide directly. Information about how you use our services, and information from third-party sources. Then goes on sharing of personal information. Then it goes on to point out what do we call it. So the scope. The privacy policy applies to the Samsung devices and services from mobile phones to tablets to home, mobile phones and tablets to home, to TV and home appliances. From customer services to online services we provide. Okay. Then they say it's important to check back for updates to your privacy policy. They say it's a living document. It's not a document that is done and you forget. Periodically, they update it to reflect changes in our personal information practices. So any good policy in the IT should always see it as an action-oriented document. It should be a living document. Now, what information do we collect? So it tells you information you provide directly, such as when you're opening an account, and the information about the use of our services, such as device information, log information, location information, voice information, Samsung keyboard information, like in predictive text. Then publicly or commercially available information, third-party analytics. Okay. But we can also choose not to provide us with certain types of information. So like such as information requested as part of purchasing a product or a service. So they'll give you options. How do we use that information? Non-targeted ads, and then to help you or your device register for our services, to provide a service or feature you request, to provide customized content and personalized services. So they are telling you what they do with your data. And they also tell you that what are your rights. You can check what your rights are. And then non-targeted ads are some of the things that they may also use it for. Who do we share the information with? The independent affiliates, business partners, service providers, those which are required by law, those who are in connection to corporate transactions, and those which are at your consent. How do we keep your information secure? We take data protection seriously. We have put in place physical and technical safeguards to keep the information we collect secure. Okay, where do we send your data? Your use of our services will involve the transfer of and storage and processing of your personal information within and outside the country of residence. Consistent with this policy, in particular, your personal information will be transferred to the Republic of Korea. Then there are other countries too that your data may go to. These countries, such as, without limitation, United Kingdom, Switzerland, China. So if you have got your national policy that says that public sector services should be stored on Ghana, servers that are in Ghana, then it means that you have to be careful if you are taking the public service and you are giving part of the thing that you are using for the public service requires that you create a Samsung account and the thing is not stored in Ghana, but it's stored outside Ghana. That's a problem that we can have. And sometimes the ones in Ghana, the servers don't work very well. So people want to keep their data outside the country. In West of Ghana, for example, our server for booking for rooms, those of you have gone through that experience before, as soon as they open it up, the first years, within about 1,400 beds, just get finished within 10 minutes. And people thought that if they come to campus and they come and use the internet on campus, they can book faster. Little did they know that our systems are saved on Amazon Web Services. So those who were in the US were faster in booking the room and getting a room than those who are local booking from Ghana, because you have to now go through Morocco and your data is now transferred by the click. It now goes to America. It goes to access the server and then comes back and then opens the page for you. At that time, you are going up and down. Somebody has opened the page and been completed and choosing the room in the US. Well, the data side is very close to them, and they have direct access to that church network as compared to you who is doing through different geographic locations. How do we keep your information? And what third-party services do we use? What cookies, beacons, and similar technology do we use? And this is what I was talking about earlier. How do you get redress or to even to exercise your right or submit a request? Data protection officer, Samsung Electronics Singapore. They give you the address and they give you the email address too. Privacy.samsung.singapore or sg@samsung.com. Contact the customer service department as www.samsung/Singapore SG and info, and then contact us. This is a very, very good policy. They start from the global perspective and tell you that this thing is, we Samsung are behind it. Even though we are in Singapore, we at the headquarters are supporting the policy. So such an assurance they are giving to you. They take you through all that we said should be there. They will add more. What third-party services do we use? So we mentioned them. And then cookies and beacons and the similar technologies that are used to collect information from your computer, sometimes without you knowing. And then they explain each of them. Then they go to contact us and tell you where you can get redress or be able to contact to exercise your rights. Very, very good way of linking all of these things together. The last one has to do with Amazon. Amazon says that their data, their web services, they are committed to data controls and residency. There are data privacy issues, so there are privacy things that they mention here. And this is what I want to talk about, data sovereignty. You see, countries are very sensitive of where their data is stored, especially government offices and government data. So what they have done here is that they tell you that you can choose where you want to store your data depending on where our servers are located. So if you look at it and you click on it, they show you North America where our servers are, how many servers we have there. No, I think I'm opening Europe. I'm in Europe. So Europe, they have got one at Stockholm, availability 3 zones and 2 local zones 2. Okay. Then they have Frankfurt, availability zones 3 and local zones 2. I think there's different types of services that you can ask for. Okay, then they have Paris. So let's come to Africa. You say you won't store your data anywhere in Ghana. You want to store it in Amazon service. So in Africa, but you want it to be in Africa. If you want it to be in Africa, then your data will be stored in Cape Town. So maybe Ghana should build the services and function and then have consistent power to be able to our energy sources to be able to register, become an ideal candidate for Amazon's web services to set up here. But even that, you can see that we are just only one, and ours is for Cape Town. Okay. Then you go to other countries, South America, they have something there. I think they have 2. And then North America, they have quite a number also in North America. So where do you want to store your data? I look at it here. So okay, let me look at that of Africa. Let's check it. Africa, Cape Town, geography, South Africa, availability zones 3, launched in 2020. The edge locations, Cape Town, South Africa, and Johannesburg, South Africa, Lagos. No, sorry, Cape Town, South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa, Lagos, Nigeria, and Nairobi, Kenya. Okay, for AWS edge locations. Learn more about the edge network. I don't know what the edge is about. I may have to read it later. An availability zone is one or more discrete data centers with redundant power and networking connectivity in an AWS region. Okay. Then they said there's a local zone. A local zone, a place, AWS local zones, place compute, storage, database, and other select AWS services closer to end users. Okay. An AWS local zone with an AWS local zone, you can easily run high demanding applications that require a single digit millisecond latency to your end users, such as media and entertainment content creation, real-time gaming, reservoir simulations, and electronic design automation and machine learning. AWS local zoning location is an extension of an AWS region where you can run your latency sensitive applications such as AWS services, okay, so it's an extension of the service that they give. Interestingly, so you can choose where you want to be, but you need to also note that it's all about your resources. Not every government institution can place their things in AWS because it costs. But if you want to give a seamless flow of interaction of data, interaction of services, for example, University of Ghana, we realized that so far as we're hosting it, we have our own servers too. So far as we're hosting it, anytime there was a traffic that had to do with admissions, it shuts down because it cannot handle all the different connections. So we had to now subscribe to AWS and be able to have a smooth operation of our systems. Okay. So that is that with the example that we have seen. Now let's look at how we develop them quickly. Okay, good. So to be able to develop policy, you have to have a framework that will guide you. And this one is an IT policy development and administration defined by University of Michigan. That was is actually adopted by a number of people to guide them in developing IT policies. So we will use that one. We'll look at the framework and I will show you how that one affects how other people develop their policies and how it informs some of the sections that they have, or how it's the best practice so that you can see that there are similarities in what they are saying you should do. Okay. Now, what they say is that anybody who wants to develop an IT policy has to have a reason why he wants to develop it. So that's an identification. And then why do you want to develop it? What is it going to do? What will be the objectives of it? And then how are you going to get it done? And how are you going to initiate it? Who are you going to give authority to be able to do so? So these things are very important. Then you also have the development itself. When you're developing, who are you going to get involved? How decentralized is it going to be, or how centralized is it going to be? And then the review and approval, the rollout of it, how it's implemented, the compliance in terms of how you're going to monitor how people use it, and then how you're going to maintain it as it gets outdated and make it responsive to changing conditions in which it's supposed to govern. Because you may develop a policy that serves the institution A, but something can happen. They enter into a new partnership, and that can inform or affect the way the first policy was developed. So identification and planning and initiation. Every good policy should start with an important need, a need of why we are going to do this. And then the need should tell us whether we should develop a policy, a guideline, or a standard. And we have to identify the different stakeholders that we will need to work with and develop, even assess the potential implementation impact analysis. Who is going to affect? Are we ready for it? How are we getting those who's going to affect involved? How is it going to change the institution? And then based on that, we can go ahead and draft the policy and then prioritize the policy work. When you're drafting the policy, you have to go to assign different roles for people to do different aspects of the policy. Now, when you have done that, then you're going to the development stage where you actually develop the policy, you share it with a larger group of people, and then you review and get approval. So now let me show you an example. University of Ghana, during COVID, was contacted by NAB, that's the National Accreditation Board, which now is GTEC, Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, to make sure that if we are going to go online to deliver our courses online, we need an online learning policy. So where is your online learning policy? Because of that, our VC communicated that with me and other people and set up a committee to help develop that for UG. So let's look at the example. So this is it. This is our report. Okay, so in our report, after we finish with this report, but I want to show you that this can be why you should develop a policy. So look at this. This is a letter from VC. As a result of COVID-19 pandemic, this is a university level instruction, had to implement online teaching learning mid-semester of the 2019-2020 academic year. Measures were being taken to migrate University of Ghana required courses online from online, to an online from that age. So University of Ghana required courses are taken by undergraduates. It's a lot of courses. Swahili, different courses. And the class is large. So to be able to accommodate that large size of classes, we wanted to teach them online. Now, the above actions may necessitate that then we need an overarching policy that guides us, because we don't have, some of our existing guidelines do not have any specific policy for online teaching and learning. There are some pockets of draft e-learning policy, but it has not been approved. It has not gone through the appropriate approval processes for policies to be approved in UG. Now, because of that, on top of all of these happenings, National Accreditation Board in 2.1, guidelines of assuring quality of online teaching, learning, and tertiary education institutions requires that all tertiary institutions must run an online education program should have an online learning policy aligned with the mission and vision and strategic management plan of the institution. And a copy of those guidelines were enclosed. Pursuant to that requirement, not just because of what you are COVID-19, but because we have to adhere, I hereby set up this committee to develop an online teaching and learning policy. Richard Boatin, who is head of IT, information system professor in the business school, and I think I was the head of department too. And I think I don't know when at that time I finished my being head of department, but I was I finished in 2020, so it's around the same time. So chair will chair the committee. He's an information systems expert. Remember information systems definition. Yao Sechi, who is an education expert, professor, is there. Then Fernand Kacheku, who is the was then I think the head of department or previous head of department of computer science, will also be the College of Basic and Applied Sciences representative. That's where computer science is. Daniel Trefort, who is a professor, who is the director for the academic quality assurance unit. Because you are going online, academic quality will be important. You have to be there. Then all the different colleges are supposed to have a representative. So College of Humanities has a representative, College of Health Sciences, College of Education has a representative. And the College of Humanity also has a representative, and CBAS too has a representative. So the 4 colleges are there. Then Christy Bedu, who is the Director of Academic Affairs, all the issues to do with students and academic work is there. Then the head of IT of University of Ghana is there. Then there's the secretary. In not the term of reference to identify and review all existing guidelines. They didn't say policy because they knew that we don't have a policy. We have just got some guidelines to guide us to teach online, pockets of online things that we have been doing on our own. Then develop an online teaching and learning policy. Please emphasis on the word policy by consolidating and updating existing guidelines in compliance with NAB requirements. Now you have opportunity to co-opt, because when you are developing things like this, you should know that it's a university-wide thing, so it cannot be centralized to just these people. It has to, although we have representatives, we have to do stakeholder engagement, like I showed you in the policy guideline by University of Michigan on how to develop a policy, an IT policy. So you are supposed to engage. So you are being given authority, mandated authority to engage with other people, but you are supposed to finish by a timeline so that they can be able to guide the university too. So this is what they gave us to do. Okay. But report of the committee to develop the University of Ghana online teaching and learning policy. Now look at it. When we finish the work, let's try and get to it. When we finish the work, look at what I had developed. We had developed. Oh, sorry, I've shared the wrong one. Forgive me. God. This is what we have developed. What do you see here? Do you see policy in it? What do you see? Online teaching and learning what? Guidelines. Why? Because at the end of the day, we wanted to look at it. And why is it guideline? What do we say guidelines are? What do we say guidelines are? Eunice or anybody? What do we say guidelines are? Please. We are teaching, we are enjoying the teaching. So what do we say guidelines are? Oh, go ahead, Elsa, go ahead.
So we said guidelines are recommended, but they are non-mandatory controls.
Good. So look at what we wrote here. So this is the outline of the policy. I'll come to the outline later. But let's read the first part. University of Ghana is committed to promote academic excellence using the highest international standards of teaching, learning, and leadership development. This commitment is affirmed in its most recent strategic plan, with a statement that as a leading university in Ghana, the responsibility of producing the next generation of thought leaders to drive national development is one that we must embrace and influence through innovative teaching and learning methods. Good. The online teaching and learning guidelines seeks, therefore, to provide continuity in the quality and climate of teaching and learning through new and emerging technologies. They didn't say through Sakai. They didn't say through Zoom. New and emerging. Give room for other ones. It is primarily designed to advise. To what? Advise best practices. You remember what we said earlier? Advice. We realize that if you go with a policy, we are supposed to come up with what will happen if you flout the policy. At that time of COVID, a lot of things were uncertain. So what we needed was what? What do we actually do? When we are not very sure of the policy, what do? We develop guidelines as a measure. Do you remember we mentioned that? Oh, class, please
Yes,
work with me. As a measure to be able to step in whilst we don't have a policy. And policy may take a longer time. So advise faculty, staff, and students in delivery of online teaching and learning. This guidelines ensures compliance with applicable laws and regulations, promotes operational efficiency, and manages institutional risk by specifying what? Specifying what?
The best recommended practices.
Recommended practices.
Best or recommended practices. So you went for that. Even though they told us to develop policy, what did we do? We did what? Guidelines. Good. So let's go back to what we are supposed to do. Okay. So to be able to do that very well, the document says that we should obtain approval to proceed with the. That's why we didn't need to obtain approval. VC gave us the approval by direction. Sometimes if you like I will lecture, tell that it's important to do, I have to write a letter to VC, and then VC can give us, or write my dean, and my dean can give us direction to do that. So this one, because of the fact that VC brought it to us, it came there. But we needed to ask ourselves, are we developing a policy, a guideline, or a standard? That's what we did. Now, you draft the initial policy, you distribute a small group of stakeholders for initial review, and then get feedback. So let's go to our report. Now, what we did is that when you do the work, you are supposed to make sure that you get stakeholder buy-in. So what did we do? In trying to develop the policy itself, we needed to make sure we engage. We need to make sure that we engage. So in the report, we mentioned that to be able to do the work, then we had 4 virtual meetings on Zoom. Then in addition to, realize I was supposed to finish in November, but in January we're still meeting. In addition to the above, we created 5 subcommittees so that we can be able to deal with the different parts of the report or the policy. And each of the subcommittees met 3 times. So we went ahead and we had documents. You said review existing documents. So the existing documents were there. Some of them were the National Credit Education Guidelines, and then some of the existing UG policies for online learning, for lecture recording. When I joined UG, we're not used to this. So I brought a camera to class and I was videoing my class and I'll put it on YouTube. But people didn't like it, and they were talking about it because they wanted to sell. They were selling. They were selling the PowerPoint you have there. They put it and they turn it into a kind of a book, a kind of a pamphlet, and they'll be selling it. So the photocopy people were not happy with it because mine was full of pictures. And if you photocopy it won't come well, and to take a lot of the ink away. And then on top of it, I was recording and giving it to the students. So the students were not going to buy anything. So in the midst of the recording, people were saying that who has authorized that you can record? What are the guidelines? So I led a university committee, a team, should I say team, to develop lecture guidelines for recording lectures so that I'm protected. So that is one of the things that we use in that. Then there's sexual harassment policy, then promotion policy, and then we look at other best practices from other universities, California State, Cleveland State, Ferry State University, quite a number of them. We use them. Then we set up the committees. So these are the committees: faculty and teaching, students and learning, assessment, quality assurance, and e-learning structure. That's the same way the document is structured. So that there were people working for each of them. You cannot write it alone, Richard Watson and the committee. You have to work with other people. Some of the people we work with is Professor Usu Champon. Please, he's not a professor. So if you meet him in class, accord him the right and the respect that he's a professor. Okay. Then Justice Kwame Apeti, computer science. Then for student and learning, we had these 2. Assessment, we had this about 6 people. Quality assurance, we had this. All these people came to help us to do a good work. So it was, look at school, public health, economics, business school, Department of Teacher Education, nursing, midwifery. So it is not something for business school. It is not something for quality assurance people. It's not something for computer science. It is a university-wide development. So have representation. Deborah Atobra, who is professor now at Institute of African Studies. Sorry. So we had different people across the university supporting it. And that's what they tell us to do. You cannot do it on your own. You have to also consult. Then even in the consultation, when we are done that, we also talked to after developing it, we gave it to VC. VC brought us to senior management. That's the provost. After presenting to the provost, then we submitted it to business executive committee that has all the key leaders in the university in it. Then after that, we also went to the academic board. That's how all the professors in the university plus the key leaders are there. So at 3 levels, so that they can be buying in there before the VC will take it to council. and then to be approved. So it's not something that you just do and say that you are sitting there at one place and just do. If it's just a guideline for my department, and I'm an HOD, is okay. But if it's for the entire institution, that has to go through the institutional process to get a unit-wide buying. Then when you finish, where is it going to make? How are you going to make it available? How are you going to maintain it? So if you go into the policy, we actually state and point out how we are going to use it and how we're going to make it available to others. So if you go to the e-learning policy and you scroll down towards the end, now this is an appendix. So towards the end of the policy, you see that there is dissemination. The online teaching and learning guidance should be readily accessible by university members, especially faculty and students. Multiple communication methods will be employed: educational seminars, print via academic units, and electronic via the UG website. The guidelines is owned by the Pro Vice Chancellor. Now, let me say something. The VC who gave us the work to do was then the Pro Vice Chancellor. So the time he gave us the work, he was Pro Vice Chancellor. By the time we finished the work, he had become VC. So that's the interesting thing about her transition. She gave, because there is an academic and student affairs Pro Vice Chancellor. She was then the Pro Vice Chancellor. So it was within a jurisdiction to responsible for the enforcement of the guidelines, because that's academic issues. So she convened us to do the work. Then we had to work with provosts, deans, and directors who are responsible for ensuring that the faculty and academic staff and students in their units comply with the provisions. Then we have also got the university will develop supporting guidelines and other relevant documents to execute it. So in your unit, the e-learning champions, which we recommend that they should have some e-learning champions across the university units, were the ones who are also going to use this document to actually inform what they do. Right now, as of now, they are developing AI policy for education in UG. Now, some of the members of our team, like the quality assurance and those in the IT, are part of the AI policy. And they came back to me and said, Richie, can we have the policy that we developed, the final one, so that we can take items from it to inform what we do in the AI policy that we are developing for UG. So it's very interesting. Then the guidelines shall take effect immediately upon adoption by the Business Executive Committee. We went to meet them and or the academic board. But the UVC insisted that because it's the sensitivity of the document, we said all, but we did end. So we did in principle, we did end. We didn't just do all, we did end. So we actually did it for both the Business Executive Committee and then the Business Affective academic board. Any amendment, and the university lawyer was also part of the co-opted members. I don't think we wrote the name there, but it's part of the lawyer. We engaged the lawyer because there is a part about photocopy, about reproduction of things, and what the rules say. So where is it? Copyright issues to 12. Faculty shall retain the intellectual property rights. Okay, this one is there. Data Protection Act shall be mindful of the Data Protection Act and respect the confidentiality of students here. Yes, let me see. There's a part about photocopying. Let me see if I can find it. The reason why it's important is that you are supposed to have photocopy only up to 10%, according to one of the policies that governs Ghana. Because we subscribe to it. Copy. Let me see if I can find it. Training, online assessment. So, okay, these are the softwares we use: Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom, Skype. All of these things are part of it. Timetabling, proctoring. That's okay. Plagiarism, archiving of okay. Oh, I don't think I have it here. Okay. Let me see if I can photocopy. Oh, anyway, it's somewhere. Okay, copyright. Good. That's it. Yeah. So good. Reproduction of books, journals, and similar content should be considered with the provisions of the publisher, and also in terms of the agreement. The University of Ghana had to sign an agreement between the university and the Copy Ghana, the Reprographic Rights Organization of Ghana, that give you permission to do photocopy. I didn't even know there was something like that. And according to them, you can only photocopy up to 10%. For look at this, and they say that small parts may be copied for educational purpose. If it's 3% or 3 pages, unless it constitutes the whole work. if it's 3 pages, the whole work is 3 pages, then you can do 50%. But you students here, some of you have been photocopying the whole book. Am I like, it's not about you photocopy the whole book, but I say what 3%? 3%, boys, ladies and gentlemen, 3%. So it's inside the work. Anyway, so we have to follow, we have to adhere to other policies in the country, and that's what I've shown you here. Let's continue. Then compliance and maintenance, I talked about that, and then how we review. Okay, so because it's a guideline, yes, so let's go ahead. Please go ahead. We can't hear you. Is she talking?
No, Prof.
Hello.
Okay.
Yes, so what you just said got me thinking about the photocopying. It got me thinking, if we have all these policies there, what is the essence of doing all this when there's no strict adherence to them? Because we have the policy there, but then sometimes we do what we want to do. We don't strictly adhere to them. So how can we ensure that the policies are being properly adhered to?
Remember what they said in the policy, that who is responsible? The Pro Vice Chancellor. So I believe part of what this policy has suffered, because when the person contacted me asking me that he needs it for the AI policy, I said, but this one has been approved. Why has it not been gazetted? Because usually when you approve, you gazette it. We have a way we gazette our document. We publish it in a document called the special reporter. Then it becomes a policy for everybody to have a copy. But I don't know as of now whether it has been turned into a special report. The special reporter has published it. I don't think the special reporter has published. For the plagiarism report, I know the special reporter has published it, so it's available to students too. I don't even think the students have even seen it, but we make it available to them. So what you are saying is very, very true. The educational seminars we are not doing. And I believe VC left the position. She left the Pro Vice Chancellor and became a VC. So the new Pro Vice Chancellor was supposed to take it up and then maybe run of it. So that transition is, I think, is what this document has served. After we got approval from Ghana, GTech or NAB, there have not been any major work that I know of. And I also I didn't continue in the role. I didn't continue in the role. I think they wanted me to do something. I said, "Oh, I'm not interested anymore. I want to do other things instead." And at that time, my hands were full of other activities, so I left it there because the other is, you see, it's an office is supposed to manage it, not an individual. I cannot. There's something like e-learning office. There's an e-learning unit which is part of the library and then the university system. But that one, they are just in charge of Sakai. They're not in charge of teaching and learning. And there is also quality assurance. So this document is also suffering from who owns it. Apart from it being under the Pro Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, there's somebody supposed to drive the e-learning. The e-learning champion, we can't see the person. Because the Sakai champion is only just making sure that Sakai is working. And then the quality assurance is just making sure you're teaching online and you are following the appropriate thing. So, but the person will go and tell the student, these are your rights. The lecturer, these are your rights. That person is missing. And it happens in organizations, especially with budget issues, transition issues, all these things can happen. So I'm teaching very well, but some of this is suffering from this part, these implementation challenges. Please, have I answered your question?
Yes, please. Thank you.
But it's a very good question. I'm very happy about. Ladies, your questions are very spot on. Anyway, Amanda, please go ahead.
Yes, so please, my question is, so if in a situation, like, let's assume like all these policies you're able to implement them 100%, but the user is not, the user feels like the policy is against the rights he thinks he should have. For example, let's say copying of material exam miss out on the information and there's no other source that you can get the course material except through photocopying. So if in real life you come into a situation like that, maybe the user takes you on as your policy is infringing on the rights that the user should have. What goes on? Because you can outside of schools, you can see it on like maybe using of applications and all. Their consents sometimes include some statements that you don't agree to or you don't want to subscribe to. So what happens then like to the user or if someone takes you on such an issue, what's the way out or how is that managed?
This material may be used only for University of Ghana educational purposes. It includes extracts of copyrights copied under copyright license. You may not copy or distribute any part of the material to any other person. Where this material is provided to you in the trade format, you may only print it for your own use. You may not make a further copy for any other purpose. Failure to comply with the terms of this warning may expose you to the legal action for copyright infringement and disciplinary action by University of Ghana. This is for the students. So it is there, but if you say we are implementing this, we are in trouble right now. The students will tell you the textbook you are saying is 1,000 Ghana cedis in the bookshop. How can we buy it, Prof? How can we buy it? The book is 1,000 Ghana. So one person buys it, then you know. So what we have been happening is just like I don't know whether okay, I don't think anybody's an A-level student here. When we were doing A-level, there was a course that we were taking. What's the name of the course? There was a book that was very good for chemistry. And the man comes, he wants you to make sure that you have when you go for special class, the man comes, you have bought the book and challenge that one day we went for classes and the person in some behind percent there, some table down, he went there inside. And the person somebody had photocopied the book and came to sit in front. The man entered there and said, "What? Is this my book?" He took the book and tore the book into pieces. He tore the photocopy to pieces. And I struggled to write this pamphlet. I forgot the name of the pamphlet. It's not Aquila series or something like that. And then you are photocopied it instead of buying the book. And buying the book, he tore the photocopy in front of us. And he warned us. So now, sorry?
Is it cast?
That is the SS1. I'm talking about A-level 1. That's Aquila series or something like that. Level 1. And what you went through. Everybody who had photocopied it, you leave it in the house. When you come to lectures, you just bring a book. You bring your exercise book. You don't bring it to the room there. Please, I don't have the best answer for this. What you are saying is a very true issue. That is why I think the university itself, even after developing this thing, they are very careful publishing it and making it available. Because some of the things, as soon as we publish it, we are all in trouble. As soon as we accept this document, why? We are watching it accepted at GTE, but as soon as university publish that this is the e-learning point, the photocopy centers, they are all in trouble. Because if a student brings a textbook, you can only print photocopy only 3 pages. So what we can do, you print page 1 to 3. Then Amanda will go and print 4 to 6. Then Sophia will go and print 9. That's what we have to do. The implementation enforcement is more difficult. Yeah, I agree with you. It's more difficult. It's not as easy as said, though. It's not as easy as said. Students may not publish or sell recordings in any form. This includes, but not limited to internet and hard copy. Students may not upload such recordings and other, in case you record the lecture, materials to faculty without notice and permission of the lecturer. This is very good. So you cannot actually come to class and record the lecturer reprimanding a student or something and then go and put it on social media. That one is not, if the university finds it out, they can do something to you. Even the faculty who wishes to record, he has to get consent from the student and the university. Anyway, so at least I pointed some of the things to you. Yeah. Sophia, your hand is up. Please, can you be quick with it so that we can finalize what we are doing?
Yes, please. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Please, you talked about the policy for e-learning to ensure smooth learning or smooth virtual learning.
Yeah.
And it is to enhance, it is also supposed to enhance excellent academic performance. These systems sometimes pose a lot of challenges to our students. And I wanted to ask if there are any provisions to protect students who, for reasons beyond their control, are disenfranchised in any way. Example, last semester when we were writing exams, we had an online exams on Sakai. For some minutes, the system is jammed. You cannot move to the next question. You can sit for about 5-6 minutes and the system is not working. But when it is time, at least you are supposed to be there for 30 minutes, the questions goes off. At the end of the day, it affects you, the students, and nothing is done about it. Yesterday I had a challenge. I paid my school fees around 12 May. Trying to register, it was back and forth. I had to go to campus, the 1-year office, because I called them and they were not able to rectify. So I went to campus on Thursday when I had permission from work to go and work at it. Only for me to log on to the system yesterday and realize that my subjects were not showing. And for that reason, I couldn't take part in the quiz that was organized. That becomes my problem. Is there any policy in there to protect students who face such challenges? Thank you.
Okay, so there are a number of things that has to do with it. Partly, the teacher of the student was supposed to log on and check whether everything of his courses are showing. But if he had done it before, now he comes the second time the thing are not showing, then it could be an error on the university part, and that has to be brought to attention through maybe appropriate petition or writing to the faculty and then the HOD and then the dean. The reason I'm saying all these things is that you can write to the faculty, he will ignore you, he'll just give you an excuse. You can write to HOD, he will support the faculty. But you write to the dean is always protecting students. So then it becomes an issue that you have to get it resolved or give the student another alternative to be able to write it. In fact, that's what you are supposed to do. You're supposed to give the I don't want to start reading the part of the document, but faculty may make themselves available to students. And let me see something. Let me see. The faculty is supposed to create an environment that allows the student to be able to participate in the exam. If something happens and it doesn't work, then you have to really prove that it is the student's fault. But if you cannot prove that it's the student's fault, then you have to help. Because you're using an online platform, anything can happen. The other one is that we should allow to be able to be safe. You, the faculty, is supposed to let the students come to campus and do it on the campus system so that we are sure that everything is working. I hope you understand me. Everything is working. So if that one is not done, then it's not necessarily the student's fault. It could have been happened. Certain things could have happened, and it could have led to what you are saying. But I don't know all the details of this situation. But appropriately, maybe you have to come out. If there are quite a number of you, may want to write a petition to the HOD for you to give opportunity to write it again, and then you may want to send one to the dean to see that if you can impress on the HOD for it to be done for you. That's all. Especially if the HOD doesn't mind you, you can take it on. Because sometimes it's not your fault. Is that okay? I didn't know that there was something going on like that. But there's also a coordinator. So have you also approached the coordinator? That's the coordinator of the program.
When I was unable to register, I went through a lot. I made calls. I called Professor Wuni. I did a lot of things, and finally I was able to register on Thursday. But this online thing, even the exam we wrote on campus, sometimes you are on the system and it jams up. You can't go to the next question. Because
Okay.
the last one we wrote it at the lab.
I remember.
And similar things, yes, it was happening. I don't know if there is anything that in the policy to guide that, because when the time is up, Sakai will go off. Whether you were able to get to number 4 or number 10, that one, it goes off. So we would have to look at best ways of addressing challenges like that.
You are right. I agree with you. And I think that I can't remember whether we had something like that in assessment. But it's possible that we're supposed to give ample time to the students. In fact, they say you should simulate and see whether it's adequate for the student to be able to. For example, it says that Let me see if I can share this part. As you see, the university recognizes that not all students are adequately prepared for opportunities and challenges that teaching and learning an online environment can present. In this respect, the recommended support services for students will include appropriate support services shall be provided for students in use of the LMS. Help desk and self-support shall be provided. So they are supposed to provide appropriate support services to make sure that this thing happen. Then even in assessment, um, let me see, logistical support. You see, this one is pointed out that the university shall provide the logistical needs to support the students. Okay. I think there's a clause here in under student learning. I'm trying to see one. Okay. Okay. Online assessment, reliability online assessment, fairness, inclusion. Okay. I believe there will be a statement in it about. Okay. Okay. You see, one of the things that students shall be provided with opportunity to demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and attitudes and behaviors being assessed in a variety of ways applicable to online settings. Procedures for judging and scoring the students shall be appropriate for the assessment method being used. Okay. So technically, the measures for this thing should be fair and inclusive. Inclusive meaning that you should be sensitive to some of these issues that you are talking about. It's supposed to be fair and inclusive. The methods for the assessment, if you are doing online, it should be fair and inclusive. So if some of the strategies disenfranchise some of them, then it's not being fair. So that one can protect you as a student. I believe, I don't know, I'll find out whether we can share this thing with you guys. Because I think this is the room for which we are supposed to use these things. Okay. Thank you. I will discuss with the university and find out whether we can share with the students. And then I'll share with the faculty and I'll share with you too. Okay. Thank you very much. Let me Amanda, I want to cover something. Okay, go ahead. Amanda, ask your question.
It's just a quick contribution to the Sakai exams. As we are talking about it, and we are not able to go back to previous questions. So like if it's an objective kind of question and you are timed, maybe you don't know the answer to the first one at the moment, but you know the answer to the second one. But we've had some tests where you can't go back, and we still have some tests where you can't go back. So once you skip the question, that's all. And I feel it's not fair to students.
Okay, I think you are right, but those ones are discretion of the lecturer because sometimes they don't want students to end up discussing and sharing the engaging in ways that they can be able to learn from others. So they even randomize the questions sometimes to prevent you from going back. So that whatever you choose, you are sure of it. They don't want you to be doing guesswork. So the discretion of the lecturer. But I think these are concerns that you see, this is one of the reasons I believe why this year has not come to pass in the way they're supposed to be. I think you should put some of your concerns together and engage the department, write the things to engage the department, and somehow to copy the dean so that something can be done about it. Otherwise, it may not lead to anything. I don't know whether you have a student union, your MSBA, you have to have a union, and your leaders should come together and put some things together. Otherwise, what you have is those students who think that they are affected are the ones who are fighting, which is not good. It doesn't bring a united front. And we are now having more students, over 170 students now. So it's high time that the student body also start making a case for better conditions. So you can even put this one plus many other things together that measures to improve maybe the smooth environment or create a smooth environment for teaching and learning in the MSBA program and add a lot of other things to it so that they will not brush it aside. That after coming here, you respectfully would like to contribute this thing to help them because it's currently of deep concern to the student. You write something, a very good point, and write it out to them. You see, you are a cash cow to the department, you this program. So I don't think they can just run off and just overlook what you are saying. They would, for example, some of your complaints that have come, the HOD has been very emphatic about it to us. That lecturers should go to lecture, they should teach well, they should respect the students and all kind of stuff. I heard last year some students were not being talked to nicely, and if you ask a question, they shut you down, all kinds of stuff. So I don't know whether it's still happening this year. If it's happening, then please put your things together and communicate it. Okay, thank you very much. Let's continue. Is that okay, Amanda? Okay, I didn't hear from you. Let me continue. When do you establish the policy, a guideline, or standard? What criteria should be used? So the time, ours was came up because the time was not defined by us, it was defined by the sponsor, being the VC. The VC wanted, the vice chancellor wanted it, and it needed to be done. But sometimes the time that you may bring it, if the university is not ready, you may want to do a standard or a guideline. But if the university is ready, resources are ready, you can go straight for a policy. The criteria for what should be in a policy, a guideline, or standard. Some universities have a criteria on what should be, or companies, even some of them have it. If the thing is going to have, is it going to affect the whole organization, or is it going to affect is it supposed to affect the whole organization? Will it affect other stakeholders? If it's not going to affect the whole organization in a way, then they still use a standard. If it's not it's going to we are not sure of it, use a guideline. If you are sure and to affect the whole organization, but we need a high level enforcement and approval, then we need a policy. So they have measures that we do. I have a matrix or a tree, a matrix that actually show you at which point you use a policy, at which point do you use a guideline. I'll share with you for you to look through it. Then the method of what kind of methodology are you going to do in drafting it? A collaborative one, like we use a collaborative one, bringing everybody together. And then how are you going to make it available to others when you publish it? I mentioned that I was going to be on the university website. We're going to use education and other measures to train people about it. And then at what level is it acting? Who gives us the power for enacting these things? And what resources is going to make available for it? Ours came from the VC. So it was going to be university-wide policy. And we are going to make sure that it's interpreted at that level so that it can be able to, and it brings and also take into account other policies in the university so that we can be able to have a better environment or a much more conducive environment for teaching and learning online. Then assurance of adoption and the policy effectiveness. Who is backing it and how is it going to implement it? Who is going to support it in its implementation? And that's what we are struggling with, and you have identified for us. Now, all of these things affect the structure of what you write in your report. For example, the time and scope, the time will go into your authorization and scope. The criteria will go into your rationale and principles. The way you do your methodology, collaborative part of it, will inform how broad and who are the responsibilities that are defined in it, and who are the stakeholders that are consulted and to enact it and consulted to get it done. Like I told you, mine will draw from different departments. Accessibility will also look at when it's approved, where are you going to make it available, which stakeholders are going to have it first, and look at it and then give you feedback. Action empowerment, who is the one enforcing it and directing it to be done, and how can they direct the other stakeholders? VC said that you can co-opt other people. So she even stated it in a letter. You can co-opt other people. And then the assurance and evaluation is that when we are finished, how are we going to make it a live document? Now, so in University of Michigan, they start with their own by having a rationale of the policy. So in a similar way, ours also has a rationale for I want to show it side by side so that you can understand what I'm talking about. So I'll look at the table of contents. So we have the purpose and the objectives there. Sorry, just forgive me in this one. Good. So we also have the objectives of the policy, and we start with the authorization and scope. Who authorizes us to do it? So in our cover letter, we mentioned it, but we also mentioned that this is a university-wide policy. And then what did we do? The scope is also there. Now, the way you arrange it does not necessarily mean that it has to follow the same way that the University of Michigan is advising, but you can arrange it in a way to suit your institution. So the scope is also there. And then we also have abbreviations and definitions so that we are consistent on what is a course, what is an online course, what's not an online course, and what are the abbreviations in the document. We actually spell it so that the document can be understood by those who are using it. Then the rationale for the policy is there in terms of the objectives. Ours is also there in terms of objectives. And then from there, they go to the principles for developing the process. So it should start with the initiation criteria. What is the compelling need to do that? As was stated in the purpose, the compelling need to do that was there. Why do we want to do it? To ensure compliance. But in the background work, in the cover letter we wrote, it's also there. Some institutions have a background which is captured in the policy. It's not everybody that does that, but some people do that. Okay. And then the initiation process. Who is initiating it? Who is requesting that this thing should be done? Ours was done by the VC, so it's there clearly stated. But it's not stated here, it's stated in the letter that we had and the report that we wrote. Action-oriented living document. The document shall be implementable and sustainable. We have to make it a live document so that others can add on to it. We also mentioned in ours in here that it becomes a compliant with applicable laws and regulation, promotes operational efficiency and manages institutional risk. But one thing we said is that it's using new and emerging technologies, so that it can accommodate other ones that are yet to come up. New and emerging technologies are here. Accommodate other ones that are here to come up. Okay, then you also have decentralization, centralization approach. You saw it in ours. We had a team, and the team had different people in it. We had ones that we were consulting different teams across the university, and the other ones that were also based on our structure. If you look at the table of contents of the guidelines, we have a person for online teaching guidelines, which there's the faculty side, there's a student side, there's assessment. Look at the teams. These are for each. There were teams for each of them. I showed you earlier. And then there is the quality assurance side. Then there was also one for infrastructure. So we have about 5 teams: an infrastructure team, assessment team, quality assurance team, and then students team, and then we had also had the faculty team. That's how we did ours. So both centralized and decentralized approaches were taken into consideration. The interactive and transparent development process. Input from stakeholders were addressed and what was incorporated. We told you. We talked to all professors in the university. We talked to the BEs. Yes, there's business. Yes, you have got another class.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I will just wrap up and then can go. So I've got other the business information class, the business executive committee, and that you can also where we talk to so that we can make sure that everybody is on board. Lastly, we also made sure that there was flexibility in the process, focusing on the best practices. At the point we're developing it, the best practice was best for us. So we did it as a guideline instead of a policy. Then we gave you how to implement it. We mentioned the guidelines for what? Implementation and then administration and maintenance. It was also captured inside the work. Then who will do what? All the roles and responsibilities was also defined at the end of our document. The same thing is what they expect you to do in this document. I'll just jump that one again. Then the last part is making it available to others. How are you going to put it on the web for others to use? And that's what we also did. So what I've shown you today is taking you through how a policy was developed for the institution from beginning to end. And I've shown you so much background information and also current information that was relevant to it. Next week, we will start taking into details, data governance frameworks, and look at the different frameworks and how it guides the development of data governance policy in organizations. Thank you very much. I think you asked a lot of questions and that was such as drawn us back, but sorry about that. But thank you very, very much. Okay, so I've finished.
Thank you, Paul. Nice lecture.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Paul.
Please, when you have time, also watch the videos of the other lectures, the other courses, the other classes, because sometimes they also ask different questions and it takes the discussion to a different perspective. You ask more questions here on this particular policy. They were also asking on a different policy and we had a very interesting way of learning entirely. So when we share the videos and go to the page, after you have watched it, you can see the other videos from other classes. Or we'll share all the videos for all the different classes. After you have watched your own, watch the other ones too, and you can learn from it. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a blessed day, Prof. Have a blessed day.
Prof, reminder, you said you will share some materials.